Hey, this is Robert with Country Prepping for the 20 percenters. So, the 20% is those of us that are living in the country already. We already have some acreage, but we're just normal folks. We're not way out in the boonies that have underground bunkers. We're just normal people, day jobs that live out in the country. Me personally, I have 10 acres that we live on. So I'm able to do quite a bit here. Today, I want to talk about navigating if so. I suggest paper maps, and there's a reason why here in a little bit. This thing here, useless. So just a little bit ago, I was taking some pictures to do for the YouTube, and I had everything kind of laid out here, and went to move some stuff, and I noticed one little thing. Now this knife here doesn't have a magnet. I've used it for several years as an auto mechanic. You see if I can get something over here that's metal. Let's get this little silly thing that's been poking me in the pocket. And there's no magnet on this, but this thing's useless. So I suggest you get you some paper maps, because you're going to want to start doing some research. So, and most of your research is going to be in the city, more of the like where there's warehouses and whatnot. You can go on Google Maps and just find a place that has a whole bunch of industrial buildings, and most of them are going to be marked with what company it is. Most of them will have websites. You can go on there, and you're going to want to research these, because you never know. You may need that in a lawless world, and those places there will be not picked over yet. The first thing people are going to go to is Walmart, grocery stores, these industrial buildings that have just a name on them that don't say, hey, this is groceries. Hey, this is bottled water. Here in my town, there's a bottled water company. They have a warehouse there on site where they bottle it, but then they also have a warehouse that's probably like 10 miles away. There's no name on the building, but you figure out who owns it, and that's what they store there, bottled water. So there again, you just get your map out. Yes, you probably should have some maps that are waterproof, but in this case, you're going to want something that you can write on and it will stay. Because you never know. You're the one doing the research. But say something happens to you and your family needs to know where to get stuff. And if you have these paper maps already marked up, you can just put on there, like number 1, and then you can have a whole separate list of, number 1, this industrial building has nothing but bottled water. This building has, I don't know, food. This building has clothing, blankets. So you're just going to go through here, and it's going to take some time doing this research. And I would suggest you start, say you live out here in the suburbs, you're going to start with the closest stuff. Start here, figure out where stuff's at, mark them here from the distance, because if, say, vehicles are not working or you're having to walk, maybe you have a four-wheeler, you're going to want to know how far stuff is to know when you might want to leave, depending on the weather. You're going to want to be able to carry as much back with you as you can. So have alternate routes, to one location. There's probably going to be stranded vehicles all over the roads. There may be military block-offs, and you're going to have to get around them. Another thing that I would suggest you doing is researching all of your railroad. Let me see if I can find one on this map here. So, find out where your railroads are, because that's going to be a great place that's not going to be heavily guarded, blocked off, and that might be able to get you close enough to home without any troubles. Another thing, lakes. That's a great place, especially if there's roadblocks. So say you're down here and you live up here. Well, if you can get to the edge of the lake, there's going to be a boat somewhere. You can get on that boat and bypass all the roads, all the roadblocks. You may have to wait till night so you're not visible. But that's another great alternative way to get home. Get home to your family. Getting supplies after, the lawless has taken over. If you can get stuff to a staging area next to a lake that gets you closer to home, that bypasses people, that's a great thing to have in your back pocket. Like I said, search out the railroads. Find out where all the railroads go. More than likely, those are not going to be blocked. And you may run across a train that's stuck on the tracks. There's all kinds of different goods that are transported by train every day. Another thing is, if you have a diesel vehicle, or get your hands on a diesel vehicle, an older one with no computers, research where your truck stops are, because there's going to be thousands of gallons sitting in stranded trucks that don't run. And they're very easy to siphon out. You can stockpile a whole bunch of diesel and it will last a lot longer. So figure out, and most of your industrial parks, they're going to have going to have trucks, 18-wheelers. There's certain production plants that will actually have a diesel tank that is not in the ground that needs a pump. It's all gravity fed. And there'll be, 500 to 1,000 gallons right there. And everybody's going to be trying to hit up these gas stations. You want to stay away from people. There's not going to be many people in industrial places. Really study, like on your way home. Take a different route home. It may take you 10 minutes longer, but you get familiar with those roads. This thing right here will never get you home. In a city, this thing is worthless. I'm going to show you one of the ways that I get home. I took a video while I was driving, and this thing right here would be worthless. There's so many hills that it would take you probably 4 times longer to follow this silly little thing right here that everybody swears you have to have. You don't need one of these. There's too many roads. I mean, you just walk one direction. You'll find a road, and when you find that road, you follow the road. Where I live, cutting through the woods is not a viable option. And everybody thinks they're going to just leave the city and go into the woods. Well, I've got one thing to tell you. 90% of these woods are owned by people. And the people that live out here are very territorial. If you don't own it and you don't have permission, you don't want to be on that property. I guarantee you. They will protect their property. So, if you live in the city now, you might want to start thinking about looking for a house, somewhere where you can have at least an acre, where you can have a garden, a true garden, not something in these cookie cutter neighborhoods that, you've got a 2,000 square foot backyard. You're not going to grow anything back there, not to support your family. But if you have an acre, now you're talking. So, something to think about. But even if you do live out in the woods, out in the country, like I do, you're still going to want to make note of all the industrial areas, what businesses are there, what products might be there, for future knowledge. Then, like Mike Tango Whiskey says, carry one of these. There's going to be a back door somewhere that this will work on. No noise. It'll look like you've never been there. If they're padlocked doors and you can't find a way in from that, that right there, this is a whole lot smaller, a whole lot lighter than some bolt cutters. And all you have to do, you take this lock right here and you just put your wrenches in here. Now, I'm not going to break this right now, but I'm going to do another video showing the different ways. But all you got to do is just squeeze this together and this lock will pop. No key required. So, something to think about. Another thing, get you maps of all the surrounding states that you live in. And once you figure out your area, coming over to the next state, there might be better opportunities in another state that's closer or easier to get to than where you live. So I hope you found this helpful. If you do, leave a comment. If you have any other ideas that maybe I've missed, something about marking on maps for future